Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Sunday, October the 5th. And welcome to our commentary. Always enjoy chatting with our good friend George Rodriguez down in South Texas. So, George, welcome. It's always a lot of fun to touch base with you. How is everything in South Texas today?
Very good. Very dry, but very, very good.
All right. Well, we'll talk a little bit about a lot of stuff going on in South Texas for a moment. But let's start with the Cowboys, because the Cowboys started today 1-2-1. So I guess when you've only won one game, the best thing you can do is play the Jets, because
really was good.
it
was good for morale.
Yeah, it's a good way of picking up your second win when you play the Jets, who have fallen in really bad times.
I would hate to be in that organization right now.
Yeah,
But it was great to see the Cowboys look good. It was great to watch them play so well.
Yeah, they were playing quite well. Dak had a good day. Everybody had a good day. On the baseball front, the Yankees are down 2-0. They lost 2 games to Toronto, so they cannot lose again. They lose one more, and it's over for the Yankees. And we'll see what happens when they go to Yankee Stadium. Always tougher to beat them in Yankee Stadium than so hopefully the Yankees have something for their fans. I mean, It's always tough to get swept.
Well, speaking of the Yankees, real quick, I had lunch with Mark Teixeira.
Oh, good.
Who is the candidate, or one of the candidates on the Republican side for Congressional District 21, which is my district, right where I live. And I was very impressed with the man. I am very, very impressed. His politics line up very, very well with mine. He is a good conservative, very a godlike man. I mean, I just was very impressed. And I think he'd be a great addition to the congressional baseball team.
Yes, that's right. Well, when you hit 400 home runs in your career, you should be able to play in the congressional baseball team.
Yeah.
But I will say this about Mark. He, of course, came up with the Rangers, and he was traded, eventually ended up with the Yankees. And he was part of the last Yankee team to win the World Series back in 2009. So he is really, besides being a great baseball player, he's really a good man. He's a good man. He had a great reputation here locally in the area. And even though he finished his career with the Yankees, I still value him.
Good.
And he's going to be a good, I think you're right. I think he's going to be a very good member of Congress.
Very
I hope
impressed.
He gets in. I hope he gets in.
He's got a big shoes to fill because Chip Roy was an excellent congressman. He was great. He was on fire. So it'll be big shoes to fill, but I think he's going to make a mark.
No, I think he is. I think Mark is going to make a mark. I like that. That's a great slogan for his campaign. All right. Well, I'm glad you got to meet him. He I think, has a good future in politics, and I think he'll make an excellent representative in what is it, 21st district?
The 21st district.
Yeah, that he's going to be
North San Antonio to San Marcos and Bernie, Kerrville, that whole area.
Yeah, that's where they had the floods.
Right.
In that area. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the shutdown politics, or the politics of the shutdown and Obamacare, because the Democrats, we kind of know what happened. The Republicans proposed a clean resolutions. They said, no, we're not going to sign that. We want to make some changes. Basically, what they want to do is do away with a couple of provisions of the so-called beautiful bill. That's never going to happen. So, I mean, I think they're just playing politics. I mean, both sides play politics on these things. I'm not trying to be, holier than thou, one side or the other. But I think the Democrats have the weaker presentation here, Georgia, because the Republicans said, hey, look, we have differences. Let's keep negotiating. The Democrats are saying, we have differences. Let's not negotiate. Let's shut down the government. I think that's a stupid posture, George.
Well, again, it's the radical wing of the Democratic Party that is pushing the shutdown. And they're doing that because that is their typical method of negotiating. they attack you and then they blow you up,
Right.
or take you hostage, or something extreme. And this is what they're doing with the government. What they want is more money so that they can continue their socialism. They want to expand the Medicaid and the Obamacare to fit or to serve illegal aliens. They want more money for their green program.
Right. That's right. I think you froze on me there for a second, George. I think you froze on me, but we'll get you back in a minute. But George is right. I mean, what they're fighting for a wing of the party that, frankly, controls the party right now. There's not much more you can say about that. That wing of the party is literally running the party right now, which is very unfortunate for the country, because that wing of the party it's just obsessed with Trump. That's all that it is. All they want to do is Trump says yes, they're going to say no. And let's see if we can get George back. George, I'm going to ask you to try coming in again. I'm going to ask you to let's see. Let me see if I'm going to have George come back in again as soon as he gets a chance. But I mean, basically, this wing of the party has basically they've taken the party over, and they're demanding very extreme positions on lots of different issues, and they're hurting the party a great deal. They're hurting a party a great deal. And I think that, whereas in previous elections, you've always had, let me see if we can get George back on now. George, let's try you again. I think
I don't know what happened with the Wi-Fi. We've been having Wi-Fi problems.
Yeah, no,
I think they're expanding it out in our neighborhood in the process.
Well, we lost you there for a second, but I kind of filled in a little bit for you, kind of seconded what you were saying, that this is a wing of the party that really is.
You can't accommodate them.
You cannot accommodate them, and it's all about Trump. Everything is about Trump. If Trump says you got to take 3 glasses of water every day because it's good for your health, they're going to come back and say, well, no, if
water is bad.
Water is bad, or you got to go to the bathroom too much, or something like that. They'll come up with. But I think on Obamacare, George, I think the problem with Obamacare is Obamacare.
Exactly, it is.
And I think to sit there and say, well, we have to have more subsidies. Well, it's already being subsidized quite a bit. And I don't have a problem with providing people of a certain income with, let's say, a tax credit so they can buy their own insurance. I have no problem with that. In fact, I think that would have been a much better approach than Obamacare.
What we've got.
Yeah, but I mean, my goodness, what we have right now with Obamacare is the premiums keep going up, and that's because they've distorted the marketplace. And I am of the opinion that we need to shut the whole thing down, Obamacare, that is.
Start over.
And design a much more practical solution. As I said before, I think you can come up. And it's interesting. Senator John McCain, this was an issue in their campaign back in 2008. And Senator John McCain, I thought, had the best proposal, much better proposal than what eventually Obamacare became. He basically said, look, we give everybody a tax credit so everybody can buy a private sector policy. Then people with pre-existing conditions, you put them in a special pool where they can continue to get coverage. We're not going to deny them. They can continue to get coverage, but they're in a special pool, and maybe the government can help with that a little bit. I'm not opposed to that. But this idea, Obamacare has turned out to be the exact opposite, George, of what we thought it was going to be. We thought it was going to be lower
liberalism. It's typical liberalism.
Sure. But we thought it was going to be lower premiums. That's not the case. We thought that it was going to cover more people. That's not the case, because they keep saying that 3, 4, or 5 million people don't have coverage. Well, how can that be? I was in a debate a couple of years ago here in Dallas with Univision, and this whole point came up that the reporter said to me, well, but I mean, how do you explain that so many Texans do not have health insurance? And I said, well, if Texans don't have health insurance, then either they don't know that the Obamacare website exists, or they've chosen not to buy it, not to have it, because you can go to the Obamacare website. I know it's not called Obamacare, whatever they call it, ACC or ACA, whatever they call it. And you can go to the website and buy a policy, and it'll be subsidized. You'll get a subsidy to buy it. But unfortunately, it hasn't really worked out that way. And I believe, as I said before, George, we got to go back to square one and say, hey, you know, we tried it. It didn't work. Let's come up with something that actually works. And in my opinion, the solution is you let people buy their own insurance.
Yes.
George.
I agree. I think this, it's typical liberal politics. They start out by saying, yes, we're going to address this and fix it. And it makes things worse. You can look at the homeless programs. You can look at, obviously, the healthcare. You can look at the border. You can look at everything that they touch, and they're going to fix. And it's just worse.
It doesn't work. Now, the whole question with illegals, it is technically true that an illegal immigrant cannot get Medicaid. That's technically true. But the reality is the problem is different. The problem is that if you go to any hospital,
they can't deny it. They can't
deny it. So basically what we have then is de facto coverage for them. And you have, I mean, I went to take a friend of mine to the emergency room, I don't know, a few months back. And I went in with him and we sat down and I looked around and I see a bunch of people in the emergency room. None of them were having an emergency.
Yeah.
I mean, my friend had a problem and he had to be treated right away because he had a very bad case of blood pressure. He needed to be treated right away. But what I saw were just a bunch of people who were there, but it wasn't an emergency. It was, people who were there because they knew they were going to be covered. And how does that make any sense? Who's paying for that, George?
Well, we are, obviously. I mean, there are several people that I know that work at the emergency room here for Bexar County, for our county. And, on a regular basis, on a daily basis, they take care of folks who are not citizens, not to mention folks who just don't take care of themselves, and they don't do anything until the thing is really bad.
Right.
And then there they go. So the issue, the issue of healthcare, it needs to be addressed. It needs to be fixed, but not like the Democrats and the liberals have done it because they haven't fixed it.
Right. That's right. I think again, as I said before, by the way, I do believe that if a person goes to an emergency room with an emergency, that they should be treated.
Exactly.
I mean, that is a fact. I mean, that is just common sense. But that's not what's happening.
That's not what's happening. What's
happening is that the emergency room has sort of become the clinic of last resort.
Exactly.
And a lot of people, and that's driving up the cost. I remember here recently reading that Parkland Hospital, which is our big public hospital, by the way, that's where President Kennedy died,
right?
Where they took him after the shooting. That hospital continuously is writing off thousands of dollars in expenses for covering people who don't have insurance, and most of them, in many cases, are illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
So there is a problem, and for the Democrats to simply say, "Well, they're not supposed, they're not on the plan." Yeah, they're not, but that's not the issue. The issue is that they're getting insurance. And again, if there's an emergency, I don't have a problem. If there's an emergency, you treat the person, and you worry about it later. But that's not what's happening in most of these hospitals. But I think the President Trump should take a tough position on Obamacare and say, what we need is a new approach. We just need to redo the whole thing, George.
I think that's the whole problem with the far left right now, is that they don't understand that the president is taking a very strong position. And if they do not want to discuss it, they do not want to analyze, they do not want to negotiate, then he's going to take an even stronger position. And that's what blows them away. That's what gets them upset.
Well, the reality of Obamacare is that if it doesn't get fixed, it's going to collapse. And then I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, and I worry about what happens to us at that point.
Well, sure, because then, the premiums are going up in the private sector as well, because it's all related.
Right.
And, and that's a huge problem as well. Well, I have a post over at the American Thinker today, George, talking about the fact that Mexico, the government of Mexico, has now decided to stop the caravans.
Yes.
For during the Lopez Obrador administration, they were basically pushing the caravans. I mean, there were people walking into the United States from Mexico all the time, and you could see the photos and the videos, these caravans that started in Guatemala and ended up in wherever, Texas or wherever. The government has now stopped it. They are literally breaking up the caravans. And there was a story that I was linking to in my post where these people are basically saying, well, we don't want to go to the United States anymore because we cannot get in. They're not going to let us in. So we want to stay in Mexico. So now these people want to stay in Mexico and they want to be legalized by Mexico. I think good luck with that, George, because Mexico, I don't think they're in the mood to legalize a bunch of people from other countries, George.
Yeah. What had happened already under the previous Biden administration was that there were already lots of migrant camps that had built up along the border on the Mexican side. For example, in El Paso and in Laredo, there were camps all over the place, tent cities. And what was happening was that one family or one group would be in a little tent. And as soon as they could, they would be gone and cross the border. And then another group would take over. And it wasn't like there was ever any kind of slowdown. On the contrary, as time went along and as Trump looked like he was going to win, there were even more people that were coming because they were desperate to get across real quick. So you had these shanty towns that had popped up all over the place. And they were dangerous. They were unhealthy. And Mexican citizens in those cities were very, very upset. The governors of the state were very, very upset. That was also happening in Tijuana and in Agua Dulce on the Mexican side. So there was already some pushback and anger. Then along comes Trump. He wins. He effectively shuts down the border. And these people are now, trapped. And not only that, but they recognize they're not going to get across. So the question is, what do you do with them? And there had been, like I said, a lot of resentment on the Mexican communities of these newcomers because they weren't, they could tolerate to a certain extent Salvadorans and Guatemalans because, they speak Spanish and basically have a little bit of your culture. But, you had tons of folks from Asia now and from Africa and from the Caribbean and
from Haiti, where they speak French.
From Haiti.
Yeah, where
they could, there was a lot of resentment to these folks because they have nothing in common with these folks.
In fact, I have a reference in my post today at the American Thinker to a Mexican who said to me, he didn't want me to publish his name, which I respect that. He said to me, look, when a Mexican used to go up, we knew that it was illegal, but at least he sent a couple of $100 every month to his family. So it was a net positive for the country because he was crossing the border and he was sending money back. So there was something coming back. But when these other nationalities go up, that's it. They never come back.
How are they going to help Mexico?
Yeah, well, they're not.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's kind of the bottom line of this, that they're, and then, we have a comment from our friend Junior that I think is very interesting. He says, we have, when you fill these hospitals with people, you're denying, you're making it more difficult for people who have legitimate needs.
Exactly.
Like cancer, for example.
You had the situation, Silvio, in a small community in New Mexico that's on the border. And their small clinic hospital has been overwhelmed or was overwhelmed under Obama, under Biden. And the local community could not, they had to wait and wait and wait to get services. And they're the ones that paid for it.
Right.
But these other folks were, they were getting first because that's how it was. It was set up that, an illegal alien crossing, if he got sick, he immediately got assistance.
Right. And the whole point is that emergency is for emergencies. Yeah. That's another issue.
Not for colds.
That's right. So if you have a cold or, look, I understand your kid has a cold, you're worried, you want him to get medical care. I understand the humanity of that. But at the same time, that's why we have clinics.
Yeah.
That's why we have doctors. You make an appointment with the doctor and say, look, doc, I'm sorry, I can't quite pay you. Maybe you can cut me a deal. And the reality is that
That's
probably
not
a lot of doctors probably do that because
Yeah.
they have a sense of, they're good people. They want to be in their community. In fact, speaking of that, this is an old story, but when what was that fellow's name? Ron Paul's father. What's his name?
Oh yeah.
The guy who ran for president.
Right.
Senator.
Gosh, I can't remember his
Ron
name.
Paul is the senator, right?
Right.
From Kentucky, right? And his dad ran for the presidency in 2008,
Correct.
I think. And he's a doctor. He was a doctor. He was a doctor for a long time. He practiced in the military base there on the border in San Antonio. And he said that as a doctor, they used to treat people all the time that didn't have money or didn't have health care. And they used to treat them. And they work out payments with them. They also have, for example, Catholic charities and religious organizations that help out so people can get coverage. But this idea that you're flooding the emergency rooms, that just doesn't make any sense. And that's what I think creates a lot of these problems. So we have got to really review Obamacare and go back. Obamacare is part of the problem here, and go back to square one and do something about it.
At
George,
least.
one last topic I want to get into. South Texas is undergoing a political transformation, as you know. You know that better than anybody because you live down there. And you're going to have 4 new districts under this new plan, the new map. These are 4 Hispanic majority districts that will be, from every indication, going to elect a Hispanic or a Republican in those districts. How are the Democrats reacting to all of this? And do they think that this is just a temporary thing, that eventually they're going to be able to come back and reclaim South Texas like they had it for such a long time, George?
Well, we've got to understand that we've got 2 kinds of Democrats now. I mean, that's the reality. You've got the old establishment Democrats, and then you've got the new radical socialist Democrats. And in South Texas, we seem to have a third one, and that is the old-time Illinois FDR, Franklin Roosevelt Democrat, who is conservative but very, very liberal, liberal on government side, but socially very conservative. And what has happened is that there's been a direct assault by the radical left, the radical Democrats, on these Democrats, these socially conservative Democrats. And all of them,
like Henry Cuellar, if I could just point out.
Exactly.
Henry Cuellar, yeah.
Henry Cuellar is a perfect example. And like Henry Cuellar, you've got lots of other Democrats in South Texas. And it's become very difficult for them to continue to be Democrats or to function as Democrats in their political elected position. And the reason being because they are really being pushed by the radical left. The radical left wants them to preach and talk about trans people. The radical left wants them to support the idea of universal abortion.
Right.
They want the issue of restrooms for universal restroom, so and so on and on. And some of these guys, some of these people cannot do it. And so you've got some that are switching parties, and then you've got others that are just stepping down and saying,
well, yeah, some are stepping down and saying, that's it, I'm done with this. Henry Cuellar, though, is a beautiful example of what you're talking about, because here's a pro-life Democrat, very pro-life. I assume he's very Catholic. That's probably where it comes from. Very conservative on social issues, but very critical of, he was very critical of President Biden on immigration and on the border. But yet, if you look at his record, he'll vote with Democrats most of the time because he is a liberal Democrat, like you say, an FDR Democrat. So but yet these are the guys that they're attacking. I mean, Henry Cuellar barely survived, if you remember,
And
the
they're really
last
after him
primary.
now. I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
would think so.
yeah, I
I'm
don't
sure
think
he's
that
target number one down there.
there's a real effort to try to put in a woman who is radical to the left. Oh my gosh, she scares
Yeah.
Hispanic
Well,
men.
she's not going to be able to win, though. I don't think she's not going to be able to win, especially now that these districts look different, right? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
she probably will not beat Henry, but I don't think after it's done, Henry will be able to survive the Republicans.
Yeah, and Henry is eventually going to retire, like everybody. I mean, like many of those guys do, and I think he's probably the last of that social conservative, of that, like you say, FDR Democrats that come from a different time,
Yeah.
and they're very liberal in some things, economic issues primarily, but they're very conservative on social issues, like, well, in Henry's case, it was abortion, and on the border, he was a huge critic of President Biden on the border, and they probably took it the border policy is probably what they went after the most, George.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the situation. Nobody knows the border problems like the people that had lived there.
Well,
especially
sure.
2 or 3 generations gone, and they didn't like what was going on.
No, of course not.
Last
I mean,
year.
of course not, because you have all this chaos, and all this flooding of people, and I mean, people coming in, you didn't even know who they
One
were.
of the things that has not been discussed very much and brought and a light shed on it very much is the number of illegals that brought their pets.
Well, that I didn't know. Well, you froze on me again there. So for some reason, I think he has a bad connection there, George, and we're losing him every once in a while. But I'm anxious to hear what he said about the pets. So let's give him a chance to reconnect and see what. Let's see. Let's try you again, George. George, are you there? We lost you there. I think he'll come back. He'll come back. But that's a fascinating. That's a good one. They brought their pets. You're going to have to explain that one to me, George, because let's see. Well, we're not getting George. We're not connecting. Let's give him a chance to jump in. But yeah, I had not heard that story about the pets. But let me get back to the story of the emergency room, because that's really where the money's going. I mean, that's where the losses are piling up, because you have all of these people are showing up. Let's see. Hey, George, you left us.
I apologize.
No, that's okay. But you left us in mystery over the
very
pets.
tragedies.
Tell me the story about the pets. Now that's
it's one of the big tragedies which helped to turn a lot of people against the open border and against the Biden administration, was that they brought pets and abandoned them because they could not take them with them into the country.
On the way, you mean? On the road, they
abandoned them at the minute that they crossed the border patrol or the nonprofits picking them up told them they couldn't bring their animals along with them. So
they just left them there.
And it was tragic to see all of these poor little dogs and, well, in some cases, cats that were abandoned literally. There was one dog that I saw personally, a beautiful German Shepherd.
Wow.
And they were trying to catch him, and he would carry around a piece of cloth of his owner, because that was the only, to a dog that's like a picture.
Right.
And that was the only, and a lot of these things turned the people off to the Democrats, and that's why they're having a hard time now picking up the pieces.
Right. No, I was not aware of the pet story.
Yeah.
So they would basically they can't come in with the pet, so you leave them outside.
Just left them there.
Left them there, and the poor animal is probably chasing the car, I would think, trying to reconnect, and eventually. Oh man, that's a painful story.
It was very.
Yeah, but again, to me, it's the emergency rooms that are, because on one hand they say, like, we have another post, another comment there about the emergency rooms in California, and That's the problem. They'll tell us in one hand that the illegals don't qualify, which is technically true. But then they show up in emergency rooms and they have de facto coverage. Now, one last thing I wanted to ask you, because you're very familiar with the story. Why didn't this happen when the Cubans came in? Because when we came in, I'm talking about we, because that's how I came in. I came in with my parents many, many years ago. But it seemed like the way it was set up back then. Of course, I understand, and people need to understand that Cuba was in the middle of the Cold War, and it was a unique situation. Cuba, very unique situation. That's why it's hard to even with Venezuela, it's not comparable. But when we came in, we didn't have that problem because we came in. You cross. I mean, once you get past immigration, you're legal in the country. We were given, basically legal status. So my dad could get a job the next day, and he could get insurance, or you could buy a private policy. But Cubans didn't have that problem. And do you think it was, George, the way it was set up was a lot better?
Definitely. I think that it was much more controlled. First of all, you had somebody that didn't want you to leave, and then over here you had somebody that was ready to receive you. And it was very, very controlled at both ends. Now, what we had with the recent situation were people that were either being kicked out or people that, or a country that didn't care, that wanted them to leave, that said, go get us some money and send it home.
And that's a very interesting point, George, because I think that with the Cubans were literally political refugees.
That's right.
And many of these people are economic.
That's exactly right.
So it's a totally different
game.
And I think, you look at many of these people, and I know I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but the Haitians, if I lived in Haiti, I would rather live in Miami too.
Yes.
I understand that because Haiti is very bad, but that doesn't mean you have a right to live in Miami.
Exactly.
And that's the problem. Because I think, I don't care how bad the situation in Haiti is. Those are economic refugees.
Some of these radicals, radical Democrat socialists actually do believe in open borders, number one.
Right.
But they also believe that somebody has the right to come to the United States in any way possible. So, how do you argue with them?
Well, you cannot argue with them. That's why the only way you can deal with them is to defeat them.
Exactly right.
And you keep them as a minority. So the only thing they can do is go on MSNBC and tell us how rotten everybody is. But I mean, you want to keep them. You want to keep them over at MSNBC. That's where you want to.
Put a fence around MSNBC.
Yeah, just keep them talking at MSNBC. That's where because they can do no harm when they're doing that. Well, George, I want to thank you so much for your time. Interesting topic as always, and we'll keep an eye on the politics of South Texas because
it's gonna get interesting. Yeah.
Oh, I bet it is as the primary comes along, but you still feel very optimistic about because I do, but you're there, and what I feel is from a distance, but you're there, and if you're optimistic, that makes me even more optimistic.
I do. I see desperation among Democrats right now. I see desperation. I see them like LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens, which used to be a very respected organization,
right,
and has become now nothing more than a socialist paper tiger.
It's just another Democrat organization.
Yeah. I mean, they don't know how to attack. I mean, they used to hold rallies. They used to hold press conferences. Nobody comes, and they are just I mean, I think they typify the panic that the Democrats in South Texas have.
You're right. I mean, these organizations used to be worthwhile, and now they've been very radicalized, and they no longer even connect with. But I tell you, you're right that they're getting desperate. You're right that they're getting desperate, and the reaction to these videos that Trump made of the sombrero is a good example. George, have you met any Mexican who's offended by that?
I have not. Everybody laughs at it. The people that I've met are applauding it because they think it's so funny.
The Mexicans I knew think it's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
Now,
it reminds people of Speedy Gonzalez.
Right now, I know that I probably my group of Mexican friends may not be the most representative because whatever. But the ones that I know, because I've asked a couple of them, I say, what do you think of these ads? And they go, it's hilarious. We're laughing. And it's also because I think people from Latin America, like myself, we tend to be more acceptable of humor,
You
of political. We're not overly sensitive about all these
that's right.
things. Like,
That's right.
but I mean, you have all these people so offended. Oh
Oh
my
my
gosh, they're
gosh.
so offended.
And what's funny is that a majority of them that are offended, like the Democrat leader,
Yeah.
what is he offended about? He's black.
Exactly. What's he offended about? I guess anything that Trump does offends him.
It typifies in my book that the Democrats and liberals have no sense of humor.
No, they don't. It's all Trump derangement syndrome, sadly for them. They're just so obsessed with Trump that it's ridiculous. But anyway, George, thank you as always.
You got it.
We'll get back together again next week, and we'll keep an eye on that situation in South Texas. But I think it's historic.
I think it's very historic.
Yeah, what's going on down there.
Mm-hmm.
But I thank you so much once again for your time.
Thank you very much.
All right. Our good friend, George Rodriguez down in South Texas. You know, what's happening in South Texas is, in fact, historic. You've seen this region of Texas completely move to the Republicans, very slowly, but it's moving. And it's all about immigration. That's what people don't get. Immigration was the straw that broke the camel's back. And that's because the people who live on the border, the people who live in South Texas, they live it every day, and they see the consequences every day. So it's not a theoretical debate for them. It's not a couple of liberals on MSNBC debating something. No, it's going to the hospital and realizing that emergency room is full of people who are not even there for emergencies. And, it's the school districts. That's another issue, too. It's the crime in the streets. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on South Texas because I think it's so fascinating what's going on down there. I want to thank everybody who listened. I want to thank everybody who put in a comment. Anush, it's always great to see you, and thank you so much. And again, our good friend George, our good friend Junior, who always puts in his 2 cents on these things. And we'll talk to you later. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas.